I'm on a journey to find out how successful entrepreneurs went from zero to still be able to get the financial, location, and time freedom they wanted. This is the question that we'll attempt to answer together by interviewing 7, 8, and even 9-figure entrepreneurs on how they did it, so you can do more of what you love and achieve your definition of freedom. I'm Bruno Morris, and this is the Zero to Freedom Show. What's up, everybody? Welcome to this episode of Zero to Freedom Show. Today, I'm super excited because we got one of my favorite guests who's called Joseph Aaron. Joseph Aaron is known as the go-to guy to create high performance and extremely effective results in your life. After going broke and literally homeless for 3 times with his wife and his 3 kids in his pursuit to launch a nonprofit to change the world, Joe was heartbroken, exhausted, and angry at God and the world. But bitter Joe decided to go all in, discovering the truth about success and the covenant of the world of wealth, freedom, and impact. And after a roller coaster of emotions and more failures than successes, but with just a few within a just few years, Joe now owns a multi-million-dollar business, lives in an ornate mansion, and is a best-selling author. But guys, I got this book. It's called Million Dollar Speaker, but it's not just for people who want to speak on the stage. If you're doing sales calls, if you're doing masterclass, if you just show up in social media, that is your stage. And this book can help you a lot. It helped me a lot. And Joe, as an undefeated mixed martial arts fighter and highly sought after leader in the entrepreneur community, Joe speaks internationally to help audiences everywhere to break past their self-imposed limitation, to become the best version of themselves, and live a life of impact and freedom. So, without any further ado, let's introduce Joseph Aaron.
What's up, everyone? Good to see you here. Bruno,
Awesome,
how are
Joseph.
you, sir?
Good to see you. Amazing. I'm super excited to have you here, my man.
Well, it's an honor to be here, and I'm excited to be speaking internationally today to Barcelona. Apparently, there's traffic there today, but good things are going to happen on this call. Like there are
Exactly.
no traffic stops on this show today. Okay.
Exactly. Nothing stopped this from happening.
Good. Good.
Love it. Joseph, I'm sure that everyone who hear your bio, they're asking themselves, did you really go homeless 3 times with wife and 3 kids? Like it's one of the stories that seems incredible. So tell
Yeah.
me more about that.
Well, there's homeless and then there's homeless, right? And so we were homeless in the sense that we had nowhere to live, we had no house to live in, nowhere to rent, and we had to find a hotel. And at that point, I was an entrepreneur and I was clinging to entrepreneurship because I had a dream, right? I had a vision. And when you have a vision, right, to do something big with your life, oftentimes you can't settle, for a job. Now, I'm not against people having a job. I love my employees and my team, and that works for them. But my vision would not allow the growth that was required to do the thing that I wanted to do required more than a job. And so we were sold out to the vision. And if you're listening here today, I hope you have a vision that's worth selling out to. I hope you have something that you're worth struggling for in your life instead of just mediocre, kind of going through the motions kind of life. That was our situation. And you would hope that with all that inspiration about a vision that life would be good. But the reality was I kept failing, bro. Like I kept failing again and again and again and again. And like every time, for most of it, it was just like making a decision. Like I really didn't decide how to solve the financial issues that would allow for the bigger dream issues. But yes, I went homeless. It was for months at a time. And we had to figure out how to make $55 to pay the hotel bill that night, or we would be kicked out on the street. So we did that for months at a time. We sold cookies door to door. We sold pizza discount cards door to door. We did fun. I was leading a nonprofit student movement with my wife and 3 kids, and it was not fun. It was terrible. You know, how many of you have ever been to a hotel and they serve breakfast, right? And they have like the really cheap breakfasts, so they got the things in packages that probably aren't that good for you. Well, we would get the bear claws, right? And then we would stock up. We wouldn't just get one, we'd get 5 or 10. So the kids had lunch that day, and hopefully by that night, I'd figured out how to get some cash so we could pay for dinner in the hotel. And so
Wow.
that was the game 3 times over. There was only one time, there was one day that I failed to make the $55, and I had to
Wow.
call my in-laws, and that was the worst. That was the lowest moment because I had to
Mm.
call them and tell them, I can't take care of your daughter. I can't take care of your grandkids. I failed. And if you don't loan us some money, we're going to be living on the streets tonight. That was a low moment.
Wow,
Yeah.
what a story! What a story! But this also gives some hopes because for people listening, if you from homeless you manage to build a multi-million dollar business,
Mhm.
anyone can do it. Anyone can do it. So,
Yeah.
what do you think was that mindset shift? That thing that helped you to go from struggling to pay $55 night hotel to
Mhm.
build a multi-million dollar business.
There's two big ones. The first one for me, because I felt like I was doing something good in the world, I felt like God would just kind of drop the money from the sky.
Mm,
I, whether you're listening and you're a person of faith or not a person of faith, I was doing a nonprofit student movement. I was like, hey, this is good stuff. God, I'm doing really good stuff. You just drop the money from the sky and I will do the work. Right. And that's what I expected and hoped would happen. So, newsflash, it don't work that way. Right. And so the first thing I had to realize was that um, I am responsible for creating the world I want to create. And I'm going to say that again for everyone listening. I am responsible for the world, for creating the world that I want to create. And that may seem like a foreign idea to you, but the reality is you make your world.
mm,
You make it with your beliefs, you make it with your fears. You make it with what you think is possible and what you think is impossible. You make it, and we know your belief by what you do. Because if you're not going after $1 billion business, it's just because you don't believe you can build $1 billion business. If you're not leading a movement, it's because you don't believe you can lead a movement. Because if you believe you could lead a movement, you'd be leading a movement, right? And so belief was the thing. And so the first thing was just a recognition that I am responsible. God made me in his image. And the one thing we knew about God is that he's the creator. So I'm made to create. That was the first fundamental belief that I had to come to. The second one came from a book by Tim Ferriss. I'm looking over here on my bookshelf to see if I see it over there right now. I don't. It's a big orange book. And I remember the day when I read the book and Peter Thiel, a billionaire, was talking. And I was reading the book and he had this whole great thing. And in the book, he said, what's your 10-year goal? So all of
mm.
you listening right now, like, what's your 10-year goal? Now I know what you're thinking, because I'm thinking the same thing. 10 years, there'll be robots in 10 years. I don't know what's going to be happening in 10 years, right? And so that's a little far. This was written back in like 2006 or 8 or something like that, maybe 2010. I don't know. And so I was like, well, I don't have a 10-year goal, but I'll just go ahead and do it because the billionaire said so. Okay. Success leaves clues. So 10-year goal. Here I was making, don't laugh at me, Bruno, making $2,000 a month,
Wow,
barely. Right.
wow.
And I'm like, my 10-year goal. And by the way, this was in 2000 and let's see, 17, basically
Mm,
2017. My 10-year goal is to make $100,000 per month. I was like, oh my gosh, if I could make $100,000, that would be crazy. That'd be insanity. That's 1.2 million a year. Like, I was like, oh my gosh, right? And so I'm reading this book and I came to the conclusion. And then he goes, okay, here's what most people do. Most people fix a goal 10 years out and they say, okay, how do I slowly but surely gradually move my way to that goal? He's like, but
mm,
this Peter Thiel in Tim Ferriss's book, Tools of Titans, he said, but here's how billionaires think. Billionaires say, I have a 10-year goal. Okay. What would it take to do it in 6 months?
mm.
And I was standing in the bookstore reading this book because I didn't have the $20 to pay for it, and even if I did, I was too cheap to pay for it. So I just stood there and like encroached on other people's business book territory because they'd have to, excuse me, sir, pardon me, and I'm standing there reading it, right? But I slammed the book shut when I saw that, and I walked out of that bookstore, and I started asking myself the question: if I had to do it, if I had to, if my daughter was kidnapped, somebody I loved was taken from me, and the only way to get them back was to make $100,000 that month, what would I do?
Mm.
And the shocking thing is within about 45 minutes, I realized exactly what I would do. Now here's the lesson number 2. Until that moment, even though I had struggled for over a decade to try and figure this stuff out, to lead movements and do the things I wanted to do to change the world, until that moment right there, I had never really decided to be rich. I had never truly, somebody say, decided that I am going to make this number come hell or high water. I have made a decision. It is attached to my identity. It is attached to my self-worth. And you're like, Joe, that's not healthy, attaching your income to your health. Look, I already had a self-worth problem making $2,000 a month, right? So I made a decision. This is who I'm going to be. And you can create the version of you want to be within reason. Okay. And so that was the day that I made the decision. So the 2 things I learned was, one thing, I used to think if it's God's will, it's God's bill. But now I believe, like, if it's to be, it's up to me. And God can jump in. I'm not saying he can't, right? But until he does, if it's to be, it's up to me. And number 2 is decide to be the version of you want to be. Really decide. And so I want to ask your audience, because I'm here to serve you all. Have you really decided? Or is it an idea that seems like it would be cool if? Wouldn't it be wonderful if someday, man, that would be great if I had a business that did X per month? No. Most likely you won't get there with that mindset. You must be committed to the outcome and frustrated when it doesn't happen. That's it.
Yeah.
Those are the two big shifts. I had to realize if it's to be, it's up to me. And then I had to decide what I wanted and go to work creating it. And until that time, Bruno, I had never really decided. And I talked to thousands of entrepreneurs per year easily. Like when I'm talking one-on-one conversations in our events, all that kind of stuff. And the most common problem I experience when I meet them and talk to them, they haven't decided.
Mm.
You haven't really decided to be it.
Wow. I got a follow-up question on this.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you think those entrepreneurs, those people, they don't make this decision? They don't take this decision?
Well, number one, I don't think they're cognizant of the fact that they haven't made the decision.
Mm.
Number one. But number 2 is money loves speed is a little thing that I like to say. And the reality is most people never just are afraid to make decisions. So if you're struggling with what you're going to sell, you struggle with decision making. If you struggle with who you're going to help, you're struggling with making decisions. If you're struggling, talking about random stuff that doesn't even matter like now and trying to put the real decision off by deciding, man, which website builder am I going to use? Oh, which email provider am I going to use? Oh, how am I going to do? And you're like worried about these little ticky-tack, meaningless little detail things. Don't get me wrong. That's important. I'll solve it all for you. Use ClickFunnels. Okay. Like that's it. But you know what I'm saying? Like or if you make a logo and it takes you more than an hour, you're struggling with decision making.
Awesome.
And so the longer you struggle with that decision making, excuse me, I had to cough. As long as you struggle with that decision making, the more you climb into becoming the version of you that you want to be, the more decisions you'll have to make on a daily basis. And the slower you are at making those decisions, the slower your growth is going to be. And so my advice to all of you, because I just love you guys, okay? I love Bruno's peeps. Here's the deal. Stop living in fear. Just make the decision. It's not a permanent decision. It doesn't have to last the rest of your life. Just make the decision. 1, to be the version of you. Then the next decision, who am I going to serve? What result do I want to get them? How much am I going to charge? All those things make faster decisions, right? I see most entrepreneurs in the circle, in the vortex of unmade decisions. And the more decisions you haven't made, the harder it is to make the next decision. Because if you don't know who you're going to help, then you don't know what platform to talk to them on. And you're like, oh, and you're thinking about what platform, and you're wondering why it's so hard. It's so hard because you don't know who your people are, or you haven't decided to do the work to find out where your people hang out to be able to talk to them, right? And so it's like every unmade decision. Am I helping, Bruno? Every unmade decision creates new complexity for the next decision. You got to get better at making decisions.
Wow. That was so powerful right there. I'm sure that people listening, when they listen to this, something should switch in their mind to help them to make that decision faster. So that
Yes,
was
sir.
very, very powerful, Joseph.
And I'm not trying to get all on your grill for all of you listening. I just love you. It took my wife coming up to me when I kept dancing from decision to decision, Bruno, and she took my cheeks. I don't know if you heard about that, and she took my cheeks.
Yeah.
She squeezed my cheeks together like this, right? And she's like, I need you to make a decision, right? Stop dancing and choose, right? At some point, you got to like go. And here's the second thing that I'd say about that, Bruno, because this is super important. I learned this from the Bible. When God made the heavens and the earth, verse 1, Genesis 1:1, the very next verse, he says, and the earth was without form and void, and there was darkness on the face of the deep. So even when God creates, there's a spiritual law in the universe. And here's the law. Chaos follows creation. So whatever you create, it's going to be ugly first. And some of you are afraid to create because of the ugliness that follows creation, because of the chaos that follows creation, because of the dysfunction, the lack of stability and strength and all that, without form, void and darkness is how they describe the earth. Why? Chaos follows creation. And here in Genesis 1, you see a beautiful picture of how every creative act works. And if you're going to create a business, or you're going to create a product, or you're going to create whatever it is that you're creating, it won't be good at first. You have to be willing, like God did in verse 2. What's he do? He steps into creation. The earth's without form and void, darkness, and the Spirit of God moved on the face of the water, it says. So God steps into the chaos. Many of you are afraid to create the chaos, so you're not doing the creation at all. But the chaos will follow creation. The question is, are you going to be a creator who steps into the chaos that follows creation and makes something good? Or are you going to keep wringing your hands and hoping for the perfect conditions where you make creation and isn't bad first? It will always be bad first. Stop waiting and go.
Boom. That's something that especially coaches and consultants, I see they're struggling with. When they're launching the first program, they're like, yeah, but it's not good enough. It's not perfect. The reality is that it's never going to be perfect.
That's right. That's right. It's only when your product or service or your creation comes into interaction with the world that it even receives the judgment that it needs to make the adjustments that it needs. Notice that each day of creation, God creates one system, right? Or one primary system. And then he looks at it and judges it. And he says, is it good or bad? And he's like, oh, it's good. Cool. Now we can go to the next day. Right. And that's how you should create. Right. You should recognize it's not good till I work on it. I got to create it first, and then I got to make adjustments, and then I can go, it's good. And then I go the next day and I make another adjustment. I go, ooh, that adjustment's good. Okay, now I need another one. It ain't done yet. We're in process. Somebody's saying in process, and you got to stop rejecting the process and being afraid of the process and wondering how everyone else in the world is going to judge you by the process that you're going through. If they're on the sidelines judging you for the creation that you're creating, they don't know about creation themselves. They're one of the 97% sitting on the sidelines. But if you're going to be the 3% that lead this thing, you're going to have to be willing to go through the battle and the struggle and the frustration of creation, because it won't be perfect first. Somebody say, I'm a creator. I'm a creator. That's what you need to say to yourself, and recognize chaos will follow creation. There's a process to creation. It happens over time, but eventually you can look at your creation and go, it's good. It's good, right? And until then, shut your ears to the noise, shut your eyes to how people are responding to you, and get to work doing what you were made to do, creating.
So powerful, so powerful.
Mm,
Thank you so much. I think only this was already worth the powerful interview that we're doing,
mm,
but I got a couple of still super powerful questions.
mm.
The first one, as you know, like one of the biggest common fear that everyone has is the fear of public speaking.
Yeah,
And I believe that putting yourself out there in social media is similar to public speaking. Putting a
absolutely.
post out there in writing is similar to public speaking. You still
Yep.
have that fear of judgment from other
Mhm.
people.
Good.
So, in your experience as helping people to talk on stages, how do you help people to overcome this fear?
Oh, great question.
Yeah,
Um,
thank
I have a little bit of the. Have you ever met a father who really loves his children? And many times, if you meet a father who loves his children, one of the things a wise father will do is, and no offense to anybody who hasn't learned this, but one of the things a wise father will do is he will teach his child to swim, because you never know when you're going to fall in the water, right? And so it's like being able to swim is probably a good idea. And so there's two different strategies when it comes to primarily different strategies when it comes to teaching a child to swim. Method number one would be like taking them over to some club where they have a professional swimmer and they have all these little diddly bop tools and they're like, do this and then do this, and they're helping them. And over the course of several weeks, the child can learn to swim. Option one. Option two is to take the child, lift the child in the air, and throw the child into the deep end of the pool and see what happens, right? I believe in number two. I like throwing people into the deep end of the pool and seeing what happens. Excuse me, coughing again. Sorry, apologize. But yeah, and so one of the ways you can do that is not to go in front of thousands of people your first time swimming or speaking. Wink, right? You get it? And so the point is you can start with 3 people, 5 people. You can just go live every day on your own Facebook feed. You can go live, create a private group and get 20 people into the group and then just do it. And maybe 3 people inside of that 20-person group will see it. And so before long, you'll start getting good. Now, so my point is, it's like my goal is not to help them overcome the fear, Bruno. It's to give them frameworks so that whether they have the framework or don't have the framework, they're still afraid. So
Mm,
my daughter, when my daughter was 12 years old, she actually, when she was 11, she wrote a book. She went door to door and she made $20,000 selling her book door to door. That's
wow,
one of the things that kept us alive when we were homeless, is going door
wow,
to door with my daughter to helping her sell books. She got really good at sales. Well, before long, a shark from Shark Tank heard that she had made $20,000 going door to door with a book, and he wanted to meet her. And so she pitched the shark. And then the shark wanted to do a deal with her. And then because the
wow,
shark wanted to do a deal with her, she ended up turning down because she didn't want to work that hard. Then she started getting invited to speak on stages, and she started speaking on different stages with Russell Brunson and Tony Robbins, and then the billionaire who started Priceline, and then all of this like people. And she was just throwing 11, 12 years old, having to share the stage and teach on business with billionaires. Can you imagine? And so
incredible.
each time she was going to go speak, we had a little routine that she would do. And she would come back to me right before she was about to get announced on stage. And she'd look at me and she said, Daddy. And I'd say, yeah. She'd go, Daddy, I'm scared. I'm like, you're scared? She said, yeah. She's like, that guy's a billionaire. I'm just a kid. Like, I'm afraid. And I'm like, I know, baby. Of course you're afraid. There's a big old audience out there and stuff like that. But how do we do it? And she'd look at me and she'd get this like tiger look in her eyes and she'd go, we do it afraid. I said, that's right. Go get him, Tiger. And I'd give her a big hug and she'd run down the stage with her little backpack on her back and run up and get up in front of all these big old business people after the billionaire and absolutely slay on stage. My job was not to alleviate her fear. My job was to help her do it afraid. And so that's what I do with people, is I help them do it afraid.
Do it afraid. That's so powerful. Because I guess a lot of people think if I'm afraid, I shouldn't do it. But
Yeah.
no, just do it afraid.
Yes, exactly. Like lean into your discomfort, because success is on the other side of discomfort. And so my job is not to remove the discomfort. If you have a personal trainer who's going to help you get in shape and he tells you you're not going to experience any discomfort, run, because it's not going to work. Right. So this like the whole game is to keep leaning in. My big problem, Bruno, is I've got a waterfall that goes in two water slides that go into my pool here, and I could just lay. I could do one event a year and lay by the pool the rest of the year and experience no discomfort, right? But because I'm on a mission, because I'm doing something bigger with my life than just like feeding me and my family, that I got to keep going. But to keep going, I have to keep leading into unnecessary discomfort. And the next
Power.
level of growth and the next level of growth and the next level of growth will keep requiring new levels of discomfort. Did you know when Elon Musk sold PayPal, he took all of his money, all of the chips were on the table, and split it into Tesla and SpaceX? All of it. Who does that? Well, he did buy a car. He bought $1 million McLaren or something like that. But it's like, other than that, he took all. And you're like, well, people don't deserve to be that rich. And it's like, well, if you operate like he operated, you might think differently. Like, don't judge him. He put all his chips on the table for two big
Wow.
missions that he believed in. And it's like, most people are like, well, I'm going to set us. It would be prudent and wise to set some aside. It's like, no. He embraced the discomfort and went
Wow.
all in.
Wow.
Okay. So that's the mission. Like, get uncomfortable. Yes, I have frameworks. Yes, I have all kinds of things that I would do to help Emily crush it on stage. That's my daughter's name, Emily. But at the end of the day, she still had to do it afraid. And so do you.
Wow. Super, super powerful. And I want to go deeper here because you said two things that I think most coaches and consultants, they don't want to do it. They don't want to do it afraid. If they're
Mhm.
scared, they're worried, it's outside the comfort zone, they don't want to do it. And they don't want to go through the discomfort
Yep.
because it's uncomfortable. I don't want to show up. I don't want to speak in public. I don't want to do that.
Yep.
So I guess it's the motivation, as you said, the why, that mission that is pushing you to do it anyway. So my question is, how can people find that mission, that why? How do you suggest people on? Is there a framework? Is there some question that you ask? How will people find their mission?
Yes, excellent question. So I think a lot of people ask this question, and really, there's kind of two sets of people who ask it. I mean, the one set would be um, just people who it really primarily my audience is people who are passionate about God. They want to do something for God. They feel like God made them for a purpose. And even then, right, you would think that, well, even then, now people can move forward more because they believe that there's actually an infinite, all knowing God who's guiding their life, right? But the funny thing is, they don't. They delay. They like wait. They're like, well, when God tells me what to do, that's when I'll do what I'm supposed to do. And they
Mm,
wait, right? And it's like, think of this: if you're an adult and a parent and you have children, when they're 2 years old, you give them every step. But as they get older, if I had to give my 15-year-old and my 18-year-old every single step, I was like, hey, make me dinner. And then I'm like, go in the refrigerator, open the door, grab the drink, set it on the counter, go grab a cup, go to the ice maker. You know what I'm saying? Like every single step, right? What is that? That's immaturity.
mm,
At a certain age and level of maturity, a parent should be able to tell a child in a sentence something that's very complex. Like yesterday, my son got in trouble, and I told him go clean the garage. Well, there were hundreds of steps involved in cleaning the garage as his punishment, but I didn't have to tell him every step. But most people, it's at least in my audience, right? And I'm sure you have a lot of people who are, passionate about God, believe in the Bible, whatever, spiritual, and
yeah.
really want to do what God wants them to do, who are waiting. And if
Mm,
you're mature, you don't have to wait. Because the first thing God told you about you is that you're made to be like him. He said he made you in his image. Well, what do we know about God? He is a creator. Well, if he's a creator and you're made to be like him, what do you have to do? Create.
create.
Well, let's talk about what creators do. What do creators do? Well, first of all, creators imagine the world they want to create. You can't create it until you imagine it. So if you want a framework, step one of getting your purpose is imagining the world that you would like to create.
Powerful.
Somebody say, imagine it. Just imagine it, right? John 1:1 in the Bible, it talks about the logos, the thought or plan as it existed in the mind of God. In the beginning, God imagined the world. Why did he create this world of an infinite number of worlds? Well, he created lots of other worlds, but this world he decided to make, right? And it's like, why? Why did God make this world? Why did the creator, if you follow the story, make this world? Whether you believe the story or not, it's a beautiful metaphor of how all creation happens. Look, why did he create this one? And there's one simple answer. He created this one because he wanted to. Okay? Shocker, right? He wanted to. And it's like the difference between a dreamer and a creator is a decision to do it.
Powerful.
So have you decided, right? First of all, have you imagined it? And second of all, have you went to work actually creating it? Excuse me. And so that's the framework. First I imagine, then I decide this is what I'm going to do, and then I do. And then as soon as I do, there's problems, right? And so you asked about purpose. It's like, what's my purpose? Your purpose is, in my view, to create. And I think that's the biblical view too. Your purpose is to create. And so if you're waiting on a message, a fiery message from the heavens, or a burning bush, or somebody to write on a wall for you or something like that, like, feel free. But while you're waiting on God, God's waiting on you. Because you were made to be a creator. And whether you believe in God or not, for all of you who are like, okay, Joe, what all this biblical stuff, look, at the end of the day, look at the difference between humanity and everything else in creation. And the reality is humans are unique creators that are different and more powerful creators than the dolphins. As smart as the monkey is, as smart as the dolphin is, as smart as the dog is, we create in ways those creatures are incapable of doing. We are unique in creation in that we are capable of creating. And so when you ask for purpose, that to me is the fundamental purpose. I think God nailed it in his first sentence to humanity. Be fruitful, multiply, fill the earth, subdue it. In other words, create something of value in the world. And if it's good, don't stop, multiply it. As a matter of fact, fill the earth with it because it's so good, right? And so your job is to create something good that adds value to humanity, that adds value to other people. And if you'll start there, I hope I'm helping somebody right now. If you'll start there at that fundamental place of I am a creator and I'm going to make something good, here's what will happen. You'll encounter either goodness or terrible evil and suffering. You'll encounter one or the two, maybe both. And for me in my life, Bruno, when I've encountered evil, it ticks me off. And it makes me want to help. It makes me want to tear down the evil. It makes me want to fight against the badness that's hurting people, right? And so what do? I create a solution, right? I now have purpose, right? The other way that it happens is something good happens. And people are like, oh my gosh, you changed my life. And thank God I'm so blessed. Like a lot of people come up to me and say that at my events and stuff like that. Because it's like, they had the shift they needed, just like I needed when I was in their situation. And now I see something good happen. I'm like, oh, like, let's lean into that because I want to do more of that. And so my purpose, like I have a clear purpose for my company, for example, but our company purpose is to change the world by multiplying movements that matter. And so what we're doing is like I experienced a lot of pain leading a movement, went homeless 3 times, failed my family, failed drastically, helped a lot of people in the process, but failed the vision. And so from that pain, I found solutions. And in the solutions, now I want to help other movement leaders to multiply because I don't want them to go through the pain I did. That's the evil. I also experienced the goodness of all the things. That's the good. So if you want to find your passion or you want to find your purpose, go to work creating. And if you work to create something good, you will encounter good and evil, and that will tell you which direction you need to go. If God speaks from the sky, listen to him. But until then, get to work. Love ya.
Love it, love it, love it. This last one was so powerful. I was keep telling myself I'm a creator and I should
Yeah.
create even more. I'm already creating, but this interview motivated me to create even more, to be honest. So thank you, Joe. Thank you,
I'm
thank you, thank
excited to see your work.
you. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think we're already over time. So first of all, thank you again, Joseph, for your patience, for sharing all your wisdom and giving all this motivation to me and my audience. And if people want to get to know more about your work,
Mhm.
how and where can they find you?
I think many times people hear stuff like this and like, I want to do it. Like I want to move forward, but I just don't know where to start. I don't know what to do. And they just need that the kind of the thinking through it and the processing through it and stuff like that. And such a big part of your success is that. And so what I have is we create an event called Change the World Live. Change the
Mm.
World Live. And so if you go to changetheworldlive.com, you can find out about one of our events that we have coming up. And you can join us and hang out with us. There's usually a lot of community there. We keep them relatively small so that there's enough like connection to answer questions and stuff like that. And so, yeah, if you all want to connect with me, you can go to changetheworldlive.com or you can tag in with me at Joseph Aaron Official on my IG and feel free to send me a message and we'll tag in there. But Bruno, you got an amazing show here. Thank you so much for sharing me with your audience.
Joe, thank you so much for coming. Super, super powerful. We're gonna cut some stuff, tag you, distribute it everywhere because those were golden nuggets. So again, thank you very much, Joseph. Really, really appreciate it. And thank you for everyone watching. I'll see you at the next episode of the Zero to Freedom show. Thank you,
Bye.
everyone. Bye bye.